Donald Trump demanded Canada hand over $20 billion in submarine contracts to American shipyards. Ottawa's answer, a single word, no. Instead, Canada launched a $60 billion Canadian dollar plan for a new Arctic fleet, handing the future of North Atlantic defense to Germany's Thyssenrop and South Korea's Hanna. Reuters confirms this rejection blindsided Washington, stripping United States yards of thousands of expected jobs. Bloomberg warns America's submarine program is already $17 billion over budget. And now, for the first time, NATO's most reliable neighbor is betting its security on Europe and Asia, not the United States. If Canada just broke ranks, how long before others follow? The aging Victoria-class submarines bought secondhand from the United Kingdom in 1998 have rarely offered more than one operational vessel at a time. Global News Canada reported in July 2025 that maintenance costs had spiraled while availability fell to historic lows, leaving Canada with intermittent undersea coverage. That record supply is one explanation for Ottawa's urgency. Another comes from Arctic security. Melting ice has opened new passages where both Russia and China are expanding patrols as NATO assessments emphasized in late 2024. Whether U.S. yards could deliver Arctic-capable boats within the same time frame is untested. Canada judged that diversification of suppliers carried less risk than dependence on already stretched American shipyards. Thyssen Marine Systems enters with its 212 CD model hydrogen fuel cell powered and already ordered by Germany and Norway. Reuters on August 26, 2025 noted that the German-Norwegian consortium offered interoperability benefits through existing NATO logistics, though scheduling remains tight given Berlin's own procurement. Hanwha Ocean counters with the KSS-3 using lithium-ion batteries to extend underwater endurance. Breaking Defense reported on August 26 that Hanwha promised delivery of 4 boats by 2035 if contracts are signed by 2026 with the option to scale to a 12-sub fleet by the early 2040s. Each bid highlights contrasting hypotheses proven NATO integration versus rapid Asian innovation. Ottawa weighs more than whole designs. Parliamentary Budget Office estimates in November 2024 suggested that total life cycle costs could reach as high as $84 billion Canadian dollars, not the public $60 billion figure. That discrepancy makes supplier choice more than technical. It shapes fiscal exposure for decades. The Canadian government frames local production requirements as protection against foreign tariffs, a stance hardened after U.S. duties on steel and aluminum in 2018 and reinforced when Trump imposed a 35% tariff on Canadian imports in July 2025, reported by Reuters on July 11th. Whether this strengthens sovereignty or raises costs remains open to debate, but it places Ottawa's decision inside a broader trade conflict. Trump's case relied on American jobs. He argued Canada should fund submarine production at United States yards, such as Newport News and Groton. The White House emphasized that it would secure supply chains, showcase America First industrial policy, and provide relief to subcontractors struggling with cyclical demand. Bloomberg on July 15, 2025 highlighted that United States yards already face budget overruns of $17 billion on Columbia-class projects. That fact complicates Washington's claim. If American yards cannot meet their own deadlines, could they realistically absorb Canada's orders? The evidence cuts both ways. The political reaction in Washington framed Canada's decision as betrayal of alliance solidarity. Yet NATO studies released in mid-2025 suggested that diversified defense procurement can enhance resilience against cyber attacks or sanctions. That data reframes the accusation. If shared standards are maintained, Ottawa's move may strengthen, not weaken, collective defense. The midpoint of this crisis forces a rethink. What appeared as fragmentation might in practice be hedging against vulnerability. Inside Canada, industry dynamics are decisive. The government procurement notice emphasized that intellectual property transfer and domestic participation are non-negotiable. Hanna promises local job creation tied to lithium-ion technology, while TKMS stresses knowledge sharing through joint research with Canadian universities. Each path embeds long-term industrial strategy, one anchored in Asian electronics, the other in European maritime engineering. The logic of resilience is tested here. Whether integration into global supply chains can truly shield Canada from political cycles abroad. Economic spillovers in the United States are well uneven. Reuters on August 26 reported that smaller subcontractors in Pennsylvania and Ohio who were anticipating sonar and steel orders now face thinning pipelines. Major yards remain overbooked with Virginia-class builds, but second-tier suppliers are losing expected revenue. For labor, this rejection cancels thousands of skilled trade positions from welders to electricians. The misemployment opportunity honestly feeds Trump's rhetoric of disloyalty, though the structural cause may lie in overcapacity at home rather than Ottawa's decision alone. Strategically, the move challenges Washington's claim to be the arsenal of democracy. For decades, United States influence relied on embedding allies into American production. Canada's pivot, tests whether that model still binds NATO partners. The Financial Times in August 2025 observed that European states are already consolidating defense supply chains regionally, insulating themselves from United States tariffs. Canada appears to be aligning with that trend, suggesting a multipolar defense economy rather than United States dominance. Adversaries read this closely. Russian patrols under Arctic ice expanded in 2024, according to NATO's annual report, while China has been testing blue water submarine operations in the Pacific. If Canada fails to field replacements before the Victorias retire in the 2030s, it risks gaps in sovereignty over the Northwest Passage. On the other hand, success with new fleets by 2035 would demonstrate that mid-tier powers can maintain control without United States yards. That outcome honestly would recalibrate balance in the Arctic, a region of rising geostrategic weight. One overlooked dimension lies in under-ice communications. According to the U.S. Naval Institute's November 2024 technical brief, only 14% of NATO's current submarine fleet can maintain stable data links in Arctic waters, with the rest relying on outdated acoustic systems that are, vulnerable to disruption. Canada's program embeds requirements for next-generation satellite acoustic hybrids, raising the bar beyond just hull design. That focus could ripple through civilian telecom since low-orbit satellite providers are already testing polar coverage, and Ottawa's contracts stipulate that intellectual property must remain partly Canadian-owned. Economics sharpen the edge further. Bloomberg's commodities desk on August 22, 2025 reported that nickel futures critical for submarine hull alloys spiked 18% in a single quarter after Indonesian export restrictions. Hanwha sources much of its nickel through Korean-Indonesian supply chains, while Thykrop depends on European recycling loops. The strategic divergence exposes Canada to different vulnerabilities. Southeast Asian export politics on one side, European recycling rates on the other. Choosing between them is not only about submarines. It honestly binds Canada's economic exposure for decades. Then there is training. Reuters on August 19, 2025 confirmed Canada opened negotiations with Norway to base naval crews for Arctic training rotations. If concluded, Canadian sailors could embed directly with Norway's new 212 CD fleet years before their own subs arrive. That would accelerate readiness, but also deepen alignment with European standards rather than American doctrine. The implication is stark. Even before the steel is cut, Canada is building a defense future where Washington's shipyards, and perhaps Washington's operating model, are no longer the default reference. Carney's simultaneous announcement in Berlin of a critical minerals cooperation deal with Germany ties the submarine program to wider industrial policy. Reuters on August 26 detailed how rare earth supply agreements form part of the partnership, embedding submarine procurement in resource security. The move tests another hypothesis that defense autonomy requires integration with critical raw material pipelines. Whether this shields Canada from future sanctions or exposes it to new dependencies is still unresolved. Meanwhile, U.S. Arctic ambitions escalate. Reuters on July 3, 2025 reported that Trump requested $6 billion for a fleet of heavy and medium icebreakers. That plan could overlap Canadian operations, potentially turning allies into competitors in polar waters. Seen in that light, Ottawa's insistence on independent submarine capability appears less like